The State Senate Standing Committee on Codes held a hearing last month in Albany that ran almost 4 hours. It was the second hearing held in 2 weeks on the question of whether the state should repeal a law that shields police records from public view. Legislators heard testimony from both sides of the issue. Among those pushing for a repeal of the 45-year-old law, the mothers of Eric Garner and Sean Bell. Their sons were killed during incidents that involved police violence.
As you know, the whole world saw my son Eric being murdered 5 years ago on video by Officer Pantaleo, who used the chokehold that NYPD had banned over 20 years ago. The New York State Police Secrecy 50A law is still hurting me, hurting my family, hurting other families, and endangering New Yorkers.
50A is a New York civil rights law. It protects the personnel records of police officers and other public safety workers. New York State Troopers PBA President Thomas Munguir testified at the Senate hearing in Albany. When we talk about personnel files, what's in them? I mean, if we were to open up your file, what would be in there?
It would have my background when I first came on the job, probably interviews, any letters of, I guess, good boy letters, you can call them, of accolades that you received through your career, and also if there was a complaint, maybe, sometimes unsubstantiated. And listen, in a long career, I'm in my 27th year as a trooper. If you're out there doing your job, sooner or later somebody is going to be unhappy, whether they received a speeding ticket they didn't think they should receive, or maybe some other things. And that stuff would be in there also.
How does that protect your members?
My fear is, if you are to open these records, that you go through a career and you have 15 complaints. Maybe 14 of them are unsubstantiated. Maybe all 15 are. But that's not what's going to be released, my fear to the public. I don't think that troopers' names, you open the New York Times, and there's Trooper Thomas Munguir. He has 15 complaints against him. And that doesn't tell the whole story. That might have been, again, if I had 10,000, 20,000 interactions with the public over a certain, all those decades, that's just a very small amount, that somebody's just not happy. And if they're unsubstantiated, they don't see the reason behind it. They're going to see just, there's a number of complaints, he's a bad apple, he's a bad actor, and he's not a good trooper. And I don't want my members to be subjected to that.
Currently, a district attorney can subpoena police disciplinary records on a case-by-case basis. A judge must grant access. New York Civil Liberties Union Director Melanie Trimble says repealing the law is a way to hold police accountable.
The public has a right to know, to a certain extent, what police officers are doing. Whether they have a bad personnel record really colors the way courts may decide cases. And so we feel the public has a right to know. And the only way to get access to those records is to repeal 50A.
Well, as written, 50A does specify a process for opening up those records to view. When a conduct reaches the level where a legal process begins, people can see those records. Why is that insufficient?
Well, because it's very difficult to get to that stage in the process. You have to have certain criminal charges against an officer before you're entitled to see personnel records, and that is a very difficult thing to do, particularly in this environment. So under FOIL, the Freedom of Information Law, you have certain access to records from the police department, except for the personnel records, but they can, under FOIL, could make them available without really endangering the personal information of the police officer.
The New York Civil Liberties Union, the New York City Civilian Complaint Review Board, the NAACP, the Justice Committee, and Communities United for Police Reform are working to repeal the law. Munguir and a number of police unions around the state testified against that repeal.
Listen, if there are changes coming down the pike, so be it. I look forward to our relationship with the legislatures up on the Hill, that we'll sit at the table, and like anything else, we'll be able, I would look forward to discussing what changes they're actually looking for.
New Yorkers can expect to hear more on this issue when the legislature reconvenes in January.